Kylian Mbappe saga continues as the French superstar seems to have upset his club of PSG as of right now. Romelu Lukaku, that saga also continues. He is seemingly on the way out of Chelsea, but to where is the question, with Saudi Arabia becoming more and more of a possibility, it seems, by the day. Elsewhere, Andre Onana, that deal seems to be under the consensus of being done and dusted by next week at some stage. Chelsea as a whole, under Maurizio Pochettino, as Pochettino talks about some of the star signings that they have made this past year and how they need to step up for next season. And England's under-21s, they have triumphed in the under-21s European Championships. A 1-0 victory last night, thanks to Curtis Jones. A truly remarkable game and a remarkable achievement by them, all being considered. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another all new news live stream. The show, of course, where we bring you the biggest and best headlines from around the footballing world, talk about them, ramble about them, and give some sort of just something to proceedings on everything that's going on there as well. So as always, do hit the like button on the video. Do subscribe if you are new, obviously, or want to see more content like this. And of course, get involved in the comment section. Talk to me about any of the stories that I'm talking about, or any of the stories that, of course, you guys want to talk about, anything that I may have missed, anything that may break during the streaming, of course. Anything of that nature will be greatly appreciated and will make for great and interesting reading, I'm sure. So do get involved in all of that good stuff. I'm sure it will be very, very good to hear from you all and to see you all. So without further ado, though, let's get on with the video. Let's talk about some of these big stories. And first, we're going to talk about Kylian Mbappe. Now, yesterday, of course, it was said that Mbappe had allegedly upset some of his teammates. There was an interview that came to light and was in the public domain. I'm not seeing Fi Baby Ambiance. Hey dude, how are you doing? I for some reason cannot see comments on this. There we go. It was on live chat. That was fine. Hey dude, how are you doing? I hope you are well, my friend. Hope you are very well on this fine Sunday. Yes, Kylian Mbappe allegedly has upset a lot of his teammates. Allegedly has came out in an interview, has talked about the club and personally about the club, saying it is a divisive club, or a divided club, divisive team, a divisive club, and a club that can attract a tendency to gossip. Those are the words of Kylian Mbappe in an interview that he conducted seemingly in June, according to Sky Sports, and has only just been brought to life right now. This obviously is beautiful timing, because obviously it's right in the midst of a big transfer saga that is currently taking place with the French superstar, in terms of obviously him maybe leaving PSG. We know about Mbappe's situation. We know that he has a clause in his contract that he can trigger before, I think, the beginning of August or something around about there, in which he can trigger a further year at PSG. But it seems that he's not going to be triggering it, and there's nothing the club can do about it. And so if that obviously does come to it, that he's not going to be triggering that 1 year left on his deal, PSG have said they have no issue and no problem with selling him whatsoever. What we know is that obviously Real Madrid are seemingly sniffing around this potential deal, as we would have predicted. anyone would have predicted. We know that they were interested a few years ago when Mbappe was in this similar situation. We know that obviously Mbappe has a history of causing this sort of mayhem in order to get sort of what he wanted in a way. Like, we know that his big lucrative contract that he got originally was down to him making a lot of noise, not only just from being a fantastic player, of course, but just from him making a lot of noise about where he wanted to go, about the team, about the club and everything. And he got a kind of deal that anybody would dream of getting. Not only was he getting a lot of money, and not only was he getting a lot of things coming his way, but he was also getting says in what the club were doing in terms of their transfers and all of that stuff, according to reports, of course. It does seem that time is up, though, and it does seem that if this is some sort of negotiation tactic by Mbappe and his people, it might not work this time. PSG are seemingly have had enough, and they are seemingly going to be reaching an agreement in terms of what to do with Mbappe's future going forward. And it seems that the overall consensus is that PSG have decided to sell Kylian Mbappe. According to Madrid Zone, PSG have now decided to sell Kylian Mbappe after he rejected 3 new contract offers. They plan to finalize his departure next week, according to Ramon Alvarez. And then, of course, the news comes out about his interview. And as Ben Jacobs sums up here, several PSG players unhappy with Kylian Mbappe's interview to France Football and have complained to Nasser Al-Khalifi. When talking about his performances, Mbappe called PSG a divisive team, a divisive club that can attract a tendency to gossip. So he's seemingly burning his bridges at PSG. It seems to have, the interview doesn't seem to have gone down well. As Ben Jacobs says, several PSG players are unhappy. Certain other sources are saying about 6 PSG players have reportedly gone to, obviously, the people in power and higher ups at that club to complain. Some of them being new players as well. So, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out who those new players are. So we can kind of narrow it down a little bit there. But it does seem like he is properly kamikazeing this a little bit. And this is what happens when you give a player this much power. This is what happens when you give a player this much impact on a team, especially for someone so young and for someone who, he's obviously done a lot of that club in terms of league titles and things. And he's obviously a World Cup winner and a World Cup finalist. And he's obviously scored a hat-trick in the World Cup. Not that it was enough to obviously help France to another World Cup triumph, but he was a massive part of that final, being probably one of the best or the best final of all time. It's just obviously when you get a player like this with this much power, he's obviously thinking he's untouchable. And with his contract running out, maybe Mbappe is seemingly wanting to burn these bridges and just get away from PSG. We've heard all the stories that allegedly he wants to stay. We've heard all these stories that allegedly he wants to remain a PSG player going forward and everything. But some of the actions that he's doing don't seem to cooperate with that. So what is this guy's motive? Is this guy using these kinds of things as negotiation tactics to get an even better deal that he's already getting? Are they secretly, is it just inexperience and people in his ear trying to influence him to say these things that he's not 100% sure on, so he's just going along with it? Is this, like I say, him wanting to definitely leave, but him saying that he also wants to stay just in case things don't work out that way and he is forced to stay? I don't know what the overall thing is here, but it makes a refreshing change that PSG go into this whole self-destruction mode sort of right off the bat in a season. Normally, it waits until about February time where the Champions League knockout stages begin before they go into a complete self-destruct mode. They bottle it in the Champions League, and then they've only got to see out the French League, which they are normally about 20 points ahead of. So it does make a refreshing change in that aspect, that this is obviously happening. But like I say, new manager Luis Enrique has got a massive task on his hands right off the bat in terms of dealing with his superstar talent. For me, I'd probably say to PSG, get rid ASAP. Get rid ASAP, because it's turning toxic, and you don't want a toxic influence in this PSG team. It seems like PSG are sort of trying to change their approach to things. They're sort of trying to alter the way that they're going about their business, whether it be in terms of the transfer market or anything like that. Obviously, their main goal is to win the Champions League, and if they can do that, then fair play. It doesn't seem like it's going to be happening right now, but I think they've made some good steps to doing that. I think some of their recruitment has been fine. I think Manuel Ugarte and Marco Asensio are two very good players. Maybe not two players that you might name right off the bat as being PSG type signings. So that might also have changed their approach there. And of course, appointing Luis Enrique as their manager, a Champions League winning manager, a manager of high quality, managed a couple of high profile teams in his managerial career in Barcelona, and of course the Spain national side as well. Like I say, I would argue that PSG are somewhat changing or altering their approach a little bit in terms of the way that they're viewing things and the way that they're doing their business about things. Mbappe being a toxic influence in that dressing room is not going to help matters. And for me, like I say, I would get rid of him as soon as possible. No question about it. I'd get rid of him as soon as possible. And as difficult as what it may be to obviously be a phenomenal player, a top quality player, a player that only comes around every so often kind of thing. I know how good Mbappe is, but also it would do his career the world of good as well to get away from PSG and really challenge himself in a different league, in a much more highly competitive league, whether it be La Liga or somewhere else, which, let's face it, it does seem like Real Madrid and La Liga is going to be the only destination for him. I don't think anybody else will be able to really afford him. Not many teams will be able to maybe accommodate for him. And some may actually be looking at this kind of situation and going, well, if this happens to us, we don't really want that. So there are a few factors to consider with Mbappe. But at the same time, there's no doubt about it. He's a quality player, a top talent. And of course, like I say, him challenging himself in a different league, in a much more competitive league, will obviously do him the world of good. He could go on and win trophies at another club. If he does go on to Real Madrid, you know that they're going to be rebuilding themselves. So not only will they try and rebuild to challenge again for the La Liga title and the La Liga trophies, but also they'll be looking to rebuild again to reclaim their throne as the kings of Europe in terms of the Champions League. So there's a lot to consider for everybody involved in this. And I think, like I said, I think it's best for PSG if they leave. I think it's best for PSG if they leave, if they let him leave. Real Madrid obviously then get the player that they want. PSG can cash in on a top quality player whilst they still have him, and they can pick up a decent fee for him. Maybe not to the fee that they would have liked, but of course, that's the kind of dangerous game you play with contract negotiations of this magnitude and of this nature. So they won't get probably as big of a fee as what they would want, because they'll know that, because Real Madrid, if they come into negotiations, will know that A, PSG are willing to sell, and B, Mbappe is likely to want to leave. So, the advantage there tips in Madrid's favour if that is to be the case, or whoever is going to be coming in to try and sign Mbappe. So we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, it does seem Mbappe, like I say, that interview hasn't exactly gone down too well with his current club. But we'll wait and see how the Kylian Mbappe situation plays out. Be interesting to see where he goes this summer. If he does this, if he does miraculously somehow stay at PSG into the final year of his contract, whether or not he resigns or not is a different story. Whether or not he will actually go to Real Madrid, and let's face it, if he does that have a knock-on effect? Does that have a knock-on effect in terms of, players leaving Madrid? We've obviously heard the rumors about Federico Valverde, how he might be leaving the club, but there's also strong rumors by the day that Arsenal are going to be going after Tchouaméni, and Arsenal again could take advantage of the fact that maybe Real Madrid are looking more towards Mbappe than Tchouaméni, and therefore be able to take Tchouaméni off of their hands. That could be a real possibility there. So there's a lot of things that can happen from this saga. There's a lot of the knock-on effect. We already know that PSG have been looking at the likes of Victor Osimhen. Could that again have a knock-on effect? Could PSG go for Osimhen, get rid of Mbappe to Real Madrid, and then for Real Madrid to get rid of Tchouaméni to Arsenal, and some sort of domino effect happens after that point? There's going to be a big knock-on effect and a big ripple effect in football if this does happen. And I'm very intrigued and very interested to know what is going to be happening. What is going to be happening in this situation and what the knock-on effects are going to be. So I can't wait if anything does happen with that. Hey Balam, how you doing, bro? Lovely to see you, my dude. Thank you for coming along to the stream. Hello, and yeah, good morning. New week now in July. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's going pretty quick, isn't it? Bayern want a striker in. Yep, pretty obvious that one. Obviously, the Sadio Mane thing didn't quite work out. They've tried playing Serge Gnabry up front. He's just not the same as Lewandowski. So they want a striker. If it's going to be Harry Kane, then fair play. But we'll wait and see. Happy birthday to Liverpool, 20-year-old right back, Connor Bradley, homegrown and stuff. Homegrown and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see if he actually can break through this year. We'll be interested to see if he breaks through this year. I had a pretty successful time at Bolton. We'll be interested to see. Thiago is an interesting one. He is old, but Liverpool would need to move him on soon. Liverpool seem to get players that go on a free transfer. I wouldn't be surprised if Thiago does go on a free transfer. He'll be like 33, going on 34 or something next year. So I won't be surprised if he does go on a free transfer next year. We keep him into the final year. We let him go on a free transfer, and then he goes back to Spain, or he goes back to Germany, or maybe he goes to Saudi Arabia. I don't know. Her Liverpool might not sign Lavia this rumor. David De Gea now we know he'll leave. He will have suitors. We'll talk about David De Gea. Yeah, we'll talk about a little bit about David De Gea. But the Lavia stuff, it's kind of up in the air because Southampton don't seem to be budging on that 50 million price tag that they've put. And Liverpool don't want to pay the 50 million. So it might be that we're going to be looking elsewhere. It might be that we're going to continue to try and negotiate with Southampton. It's going to be an interesting watch, that one. So, yeah, I think if you're... I've heard similar whispers and rumours too about Lavia, about how Liverpool might not be going in for him. But if that is going to be the case, it's mainly about the price, as you probably would expect with Liverpool. So, yeah, we'll see about that one. But yes, we'll definitely see about that one. And we'll continue with this. So, yeah, Mbappe, going to be interesting because of the massive knock-on effect and everything. Be very interesting to see what's going to happen with Kylian Mbappe going forward. Next story, as Balam says, is going to be about David De Gea. News came out yesterday that it was done and dusted with De Gea. He's finished at Manchester United. There'll be no re-signing of the Spanish goalkeeper at Old Trafford. He leaves after over a decade with the club. a goalkeeper who came into Manchester United, and I remember making a ton of mistakes, and I remember thinking that this goalkeeping experiment has not gone down too well, but over the years has really shone for Manchester United, really gone up a level, and for a time was probably one of the best goalkeepers in world football. But of course, as time progresses, the game evolves, and obviously the game has evolved to an extent where goalkeepers are judged just as much with how well they can play with the ball at their feet rather than play with the ball in their hands and shot stop. And whilst David De Gea has been a decent shot stopper, although for the past couple of years it has sort of deteriorated a little bit, he has always struggled with playing the ball out from the back with his feet. And that is why it seemed fit that Manchester United move him on or don't re-sign him, which is of course the case, where allegedly there was a contract on the table. David De Gea was willing to sign it for a pay cut as well, and then United simply took it back, performed a U-turn and ripped up that contract. So we'll wait and see what happens with David De Gea going forward. The seemingly overall consensus is that De Gea will be playing his football in Saudi Arabia next season. We'll of course wait and see whether or not that does take shape or not. He could also go back to Spain. I guess that could be a possibility as well now that he's a free transfer. But we'll wait and see what happens with David De Gea. Certainly a club legend at Manchester United. Pretty much won everything barring the Champions League, of course, there during his time. So, yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to happen with him going forward. Club legend, a great goalkeeper from his time there. But of course, that chapter or that story now has come to an end. So we'll wait and see what happens there. What's his name? Onana. Yeah, I can imagine they're going to be singing that a lot at Old Trafford next season. For some reason, I won't be surprised if Lukaku goes to Bayern. Bayern need a striker and he needs a club. They could turn their attention to him. If obviously the Harry Kane stuff doesn't work out, I wouldn't necessarily be completely surprised if Bayern do turn their attention to Lukaku. That could be a good shout there, bro. David De Gea became a club legend, a great goalkeeper in the years of 2014 to 2018, possibly. Yeah, I agree with that. I think he really came into his own at that point where he saved United a whole lot of times. It was a kind of era where, of course, United weren't at their best and United were very much struggling, and David De Gea was one to really step up. So, yeah, I completely agree with that. Some fans say that David De Gea leave in a bad manner and not honor their legend like that. As in the club didn't honor him or he didn't honor the club, because again, it's weird that if you would turn on De Gea, because the contract was on the table by Manchester United that they ultimately pulled back. They ultimately performed the U-turn on. So David De Gea was willing to sign on. He was willing seemingly to take a pay cut. He was seemingly willing to obviously let another goalkeeper come in that would be more of a number one choice. So I'm not 100% sure if there are United fans that are angry about it. Same with Mason Mount, really. Mason Mount at Chelsea had a contract on the table that Chelsea withdrew. And people are calling him a snake. So it's a bit strange to me, unless I'm missing something. At the moment, Tom Heaton or Nathan Bishop is the number one. Dean Henderson's still there. So right now, there's still Dean Henderson. Is it true Captain Pledge is sponsoring Sheffield United or Chelsea, who play in Fulham, both looking for a shirt sponsor? Nope, not yet. Have you heard Chelsea will release new shirt with no shirt sponsor? You know what? If it's a nice shirt, it will only get ruined by a shirt sponsor. I hate shirts that get ruined by shirt sponsors. There are some very, very, very nice shirts out there that get ruined by just having a horrible logo plastered all over it. So, you know what? If it's going to be a no shirt sponsor, I would really, really like that. And I reckon, and to be fair, Chelsea, although it's blue and although it's Chelsea, sometimes Chelsea has some nice kits. So sometimes the blue like really works. So a shame their fans didn't say goodbye to that. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. You don't always get the fairy tale ending like a Bobby Firmino, for example, or anything like that. I mean, Gerrard's final game was a complete disaster for Liverpool. So sometimes you just don't get that fairy tale ending. You don't get like a Didier Drogba where he scores the winning penalty in a Champions League final, for example. So yeah, like you don't always get that kind of moment when you're saying goodbye to fans that you've known and you've seen for the past 10 years or so. So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, football moves on. He'll move on. The club will move on. Everyone will move on. So yeah, it is what it is, really. Romelu Lukaku. Actually, no, let's talk about Onana. We'll just talk about De Gea, so it nicely moves on to Onana. The overall consensus of Onana is that a deal will be done next week between Man United and Inter. Romano states on Twitter that Manchester United are now really close to signing Andre Onana. Positive round of talks. Final bid to arrive soon, then done deal. Told deal will be sealed by the end of next week. Personal terms agreed. Man United want Onana to travel for USA pre-season tour. Of course, pre-season for a lot of clubs has either began or starting to get underway within the next week or so, or they're going to go out and do their pre-season training camps in various different places around the globe within the next week or so. So everything is starting to heat up again in terms of that aspect. And of course, transfers are going to be moving along very quickly now, as obviously managers and clubs are going to be looking even more intensely at who's going to make it into their sides and teams and squads this season and who basically isn't. It all heats up from this point. So there's going to be a lot more stuff coming forward. There's going to be a lot more stuff going through. Cannot wait for all of that stuff. And yeah, Onana does seem to be a done and dusted deal. And we talked a lot about Onana yesterday. And I basically said that Onana is a goalkeeper I admire. He's a goalkeeper that I like. He's a perfect modern day goalkeeper, a very good shot stopper, and probably one of the best with his feet as well. He's going to transform Manchester United in the way that they want to play to how they now will play. His passing out from the back is going to be a bit risky, and there's going to be obviously a mistake within him. Of course, there is like any goalkeeper in world football right now, including the best, who is, in my opinion, Alisson Becker. But he is going to transform the way that United play. He's going to get them transitioning from defense to attack in a much more quicker and much more accurate manner, shall we say. I think this is a fantastic move by Manchester United. If I am to be completely neutral on this, and I am to be completely fair, this is a fantastic move by Manchester United. A deal that I rate highly. I don't want them to do it. I don't want them to pull this deal off, but it does seem like it's going to happen, and it does seem that Onana will soon be unveiled as a Manchester United player going forward. The one thing that I will say is that when you look at obviously United right now, you look at the signing of Mason Mount, you look at the signing of Andre Onana, it looks to be a solid transfer window so far. And there are a couple of obviously more rumours out there that United are looking for Amrabat in that midfield to tighten that up. They're looking at Rasmus Højlund to obviously improve the striker situation, which in my opinion is a bit of a gamble. And I might talk about Højlund maybe in a video or something. For me, obviously, defense needs to be looked at as well. But for me, this takeover situation, is anybody a bit confused that if the Glazers are leaving, unless I'm missing something, and obviously I can only see this from the outside looking in, it seems business as usual for a club's owners that, I wouldn't say don't give them money, but don't spend it in the right areas. I'll try to be back later, man. Okay, Balin, no problem, dude. Thank you for coming along anyway, my man. Like, thank you for coming by and contributing. Very much appreciated. Always good to hear from you, my bro. What was I? Yeah. for owners that are seemingly wanting to leave, seemingly wanting to pull the plug on Manchester United in terms of their stay there, is anybody else a bit confused that they're buying big money players? They're buying Mount for 60 odd million. They're buying Onana for what will be about 40 to 50 million. They're buying Amrabat for what would be 25 to 30 million. They're looking at Højlund, who will cost, they think he'll cost about 40 odd million. I reckon it will be something around about 60 to 70 million. Anybody else a bit confused by this? Or am I missing something here? Why would you still spend money if you are looking to leave the club? Is it because they think they're going to be staying? Is it because they actually want to stay? Is it because they're going to be doing this joint partnership thing with Jim Ratcliffe that they're seemingly suggesting might be the possibility? It seems business as usual as far as what Manchester United are concerned. And if I was a United fan, I'd be a bit concerned by that. Again, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing the point, and maybe business just carries on as usual until obviously the business people are completely gone. But I'd just be a little bit concerned if I was a United fan that these guys are still here. After months and months of saying that they're going to sell the club, these guys are still here. These guys are putting their money into this club still to buy players like Mason Mount and Andre Onana. Players who look good on paper and players that are needed in areas to strengthen that we suggested would needed to be strengthened. But I'd just be a bit concerned by that. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe there is going to be a big takeover and sale very, very soon. And maybe it is going to be the Saudis and maybe the Glazers are going to leave once and for all at United. But I'd just be a bit concerned that obviously they are still here. They are still putting their money into the club. They are, well, maybe not their money, but they are still putting money into the transfers of the club that are big transfers at that. So I'd just be a bit concerned, in all honesty, about that. So something just to look out for if you are a United fan there. Moving on to Chelsea, and we're going to start things off with Romelu Lukaku. Now, according to Ben Jacobs, Chelsea are considering bids for Romelu Lukaku in 45 million euros range. Al Hilal and Juventus in the race. Inter's bid rejected out of hand. Lukaku is seriously considering Saudi. So, from wanting to go back to Inter Milan, he is now seemingly considering Saudi. And we heard that this kind of story has been gaining momentum and that Lukaku's thoughts have been dwelling on a Saudi Arabian move for a long time. And they've been growing and growing in confidence in terms of that. It's interesting. Maybe he's seeing the Saudi League and seeing the kind of money that's available to the Saudi League and obviously is intrigued by it all. Obviously, this will be another big player sale from Chelsea's point of view that they can really put towards beefing up their squad some more. It's going to be interesting to see what Chelsea do because obviously there's going to be a young squad that's going to be available to them. There's going to be a squad, a wealth of money that they can definitely use to their advantage in terms of negotiations, whether it be for Caicedo, whether it be for someone else, whether it be for another player, that kind of thing. I'm just very much intrigued by what Chelsea are planning to do going forward, how Pochettino is going to be helping to maneuver Chelsea going forward. He's already said that they're thinking a bit differently to how they have been. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued by this. I'm very intrigued by the future of Romelu Lukaku as well. Where is he going to end up? He seems to have a few possibilities somehow, some way, some shape or form. So very intrigued by this. And just sticking with Chelsea for the next story. Mauricio Pochettino has backed Enzo Fernandez, Mikael Mudryk and Raheem Sterling all to live up to their expensive price tags at Chelsea for next season. But he has warned them that there will be no excuses next season for underperformance. I think out of the three, I think if they get a proper striker, I think that will definitely benefit Raheem Sterling. I think then he'll have someone to play off. I think maybe that will also help Mudryk as well. I think if he can have the sort of Son Heung-min effect that Pochettino had at Spurs, maybe he could benefit from that, and maybe he could become sort of like Chelsea's son in a way. And as for Enzo Fernandez, I didn't think he was too bad last season for the most part, considering the kind of atmosphere and the team that he was walking into. But I also do think that if Chelsea are to buy Moises Caicedo, which does seem to be the likely option, a double pivot next season of Fernandez and Caicedo that help balance and complement each other so well, having Christopher Nkunku maybe as a number 10 sort of position as well, that midfield and that attacking line is going to be absolutely filthy for next season. Absolutely filthy, in my opinion. Mix it in with the Pochettino way of playing, the high intensity, the high press, the quick and intense transition. I think that's going to be a quality midfield if they can get Caicedo in. And that is not only going to benefit Caicedo, not only going to improve Caicedo going forward, but it's also going to improve Enzo Fernandez, and it's going to give him more of an influential impact on any game, in my opinion. And I think that's going to be a fantastic watch for Chelsea for next season. Like I say, Caicedo, Fernandez, fantastic players individually, but together, I think they could be one hell of a midfield unit. Poch is right in what he's saying. There'll be no excuses next season. They've had some time to settle in. They've had some time to work with him, work with their new players and everything. I know there's still a lot of transition happening at Chelsea, but after at the end of the day, at the end of the season, it will be 18 months or 2 years in some of those cases for those types of players to have settled in. So, yeah, I would go along with what Poch is saying there. But I do think that with the right players blending in, with Caicedo in that midfield especially, if they can sort of settle Nicholas Jackson, or if they can bring in another quality striker that is going to be a main man striker up front, I think that these kinds of players that they've brought in over these past couple of years can really benefit from those and can really start to settle down at Chelsea, shall we say, going forward. So interesting moves there by Chelsea. And then for our final story, England's under-21s. They won the European Championships yesterday. Fantastic performance, fantastic result, fantastic overall tournament by the Three Lions. 1-0 victory it was over Spain. 1-0 victory. Curtis Jones, Liverpool's Curtis Jones with the only goal of the game. Fantastic result by England, of course. They had to suffer some last minute drama in which Spain missed a penalty thanks to a brilliant save by James Trafford in the England goal. Trafford, of course, subject to a big money move to Burnley, it seems, where a lot of people were questioning the move. A lot of people were saying this goalkeeper that not many people had heard of is going to Burnley for around about 15 million. How is this not suspicious in the slightest? A Manchester City goalkeeper going to Burnley. Vincent Kompany, obviously formerly of Manchester City during his playing days, of course, going back to his former club to sign a young upcoming talent in James Trafford. Well, I think he pretty much justified his price tag there with this save here. Helped, obviously, England on their way. I don't think he conceded a goal in the tournament, to be perfectly honest with you. I'll just double check that. I think I'm right in saying that. 1-0 semi-final, 2-0 quarter. Um, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 1-0, 3-0, 1-0. Yeah, they didn't actually concede a goal in this whole tournament. So fair play to England. A fantastic result, fantastic performances all round. Some really good football at times, some really good talent to watch during this tournament, not just from an England point of view, but from other countries as well. Obviously, now it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these players going forward, whether they can break into the senior England team, whether they'll continue in the under-21s, what's going to happen with their club careers as well. How is Curtis Jones and the likes of Harvey Elliott going to sort of grow and continue to bed in more and more to the Liverpool team going forward? It's going to be very interesting summer ahead for some of these players and for a number of these young talents that are out there. So very interesting, but a fantastic performance, fantastic result nonetheless. And of course, we'll wait and see, obviously, what happens going forward with this kind of team. But it's a positive thing for the England national team. It's a positive thing for the under-21s. Fantastic result all round. Brilliant to watch, brilliant to see. And yeah, like I say, it's a great performance all round. Fantastic overall. And like I say, a lot to obviously digest and a lot to sink our teeth into today. Not just the England under-21 stuff, but about Romelu Lukaku as well, about Chelsea going forward for next season, about David De Gea's situation. Where will he end up next season? And now that he's on a free transfer, and that is definitely going to be the case going forward. Andre Onana, that deal seems to be done and dusted by next week, or it's going to be done and dusted by next week, should I say. That's going to be a very interesting signing and a very, very good signing, in my opinion, by Manchester United. And of course, the Kylian Mbappe saga continues to rumble on. He seems to have upset a few of his teammates. Will that push PSG's decision even further to sell him for this season? A lot to talk about, a lot to dive into. But of course, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of anything that I have talked about in this live stream about Mbappe, about Lukaku, about Onana, about De Gea, about the England 21s, anything along them lines? I'm sure will make for interesting and great reading down below in the comment section. So do get involved down there. Do get involved in the chat, whether it's stuff that I talked about, whether it's stuff that you guys want to talk about for a future video. All could be very interesting and intriguing going forward. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already. Subscribed if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Flex. This has been another all new news live stream, and I will see you and speak with you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever the hell it will be. Thank you all, guys. Thank you.